The secret and the proposal. 3 months into their relationship, Maya noticed she was late. At first, she blamed it on stress from the upcoming spring menu launch at Sweet Escape. But when 2 weeks passed with still nothing, she bought a test during her lunch break, hiding it in her purse like contraband. That evening, sitting on the cool tile of her bathroom floor, Maya watched the second line appear with crystal clarity. Pregnant. She was pregnant with Lucas's baby, and they'd only been together 3 months. They'd never discussed children, never talked about timelines or long-term plans beyond next weekend's dinner reservation. Fear gripped her chest, but underneath it pulsed something warmer, something hopeful. She thought of Lucas's gentle hands, his patient smile, the way he listened when she rambled about pastry techniques at midnight. She thought of the life they'd been building together, one careful day at a time. Maya placed a hand on her still flat stomach and smiled through her tears. "Your dad is going to be amazing," she whispered to the tiny cluster of cells that would become their child. For 2 weeks, she carried the secret like a precious stone, waiting for the perfect moment. Lucas had been working extra shifts, coming home exhausted but always making time to hold her, to ask about her day, to kiss her like she was the most important thing in his world. He kept mentioning he was saving for something special, growing mysteriously excited whenever she asked about it. It was a Saturday in late March when Lucas asked her to come to his apartment that evening. "I'm having a small gathering," he said, his voice slightly nervous over the phone. "Just a few friends from work and some neighbors. Nothing fancy." Maya arrived at 7, carrying homemade lemon bars she couldn't eat without feeling nauseous, her first real pregnancy symptom. The apartment was filled with people she recognized, Officer Chen and his wife, Sophie who'd become friends with some of Lucas's colleagues, even Mrs. Rodriguez from downstairs who'd adopted them both as surrogate grandchildren. "You look beautiful," Lucas said, appearing at her side and taking the dessert from her hands. He wore a forest green button-down that made his eyes look almost amber in the soft lighting. There was something electric in his expression, a barely contained energy that made her pulse quicken. "You okay?" she asked, touching his arm gently. "Perfect," he replied, but his voice trembled slightly. "Actually, can everyone come into the living room for a minute?" The chatter died down as people gathered, forming a loose circle. Maya found herself standing in the center, confused as Lucas carefully set down her lemon bars and turned to face her. Her heart began hammering against her ribs. "I'm terrible at speeches," he began, his voice carrying across the suddenly quiet room. "Anyone who knows me can tell you that. I'm better with actions than words. But tonight, I need words." Maya's breath caught as understanding began to dawn. "4 months ago, on New Year's Eve, I was sitting alone in this apartment, wondering if moving to Seattle was a mistake. I didn't know anyone. I was spending the holidays by myself, eating takeout and watching bad TV. And then my phone buzzed with a message that wasn't meant for me." Soft laughter rippled through the crowd. Sophie was grinning, her phone already recording. "That message brought me you, Maya. And you brought me everything else. You brought me laughter and purpose and conversations that last until 3 in the morning. You brought me a reason to love this city, a reason to look forward to coming home. You taught me that the best things in life come from the most unexpected places." His voice grew thick with emotion. "You brought me back to life when I didn't even realize I'd stopped living." Tears were already streaming down Maya's face as Lucas reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. The room went completely silent as he lowered himself to one knee. When he opened the box, Maya gasped. A stunning oval diamond caught the light, throwing rainbows across the walls, set in a delicate rose gold band that looked like twisted vines. "Maya Chen," he said, his own eyes glistening now, "I know we haven't been together long by traditional standards. But I also know that I want to spend every day for the rest of my life making you as happy as you make me. I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to support your dreams and build new ones together. I want to be your partner, your best friend, your home." He took a deep breath. Will you marry me? The word burst from her lips before she could think. Yes. Then louder, laughing through her tears. Yes, absolutely, yes. Lucas stood, his hands shaking as he slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, catching the light like captured starlight. Then he pulled her into his arms and kissed her as their friends erupted in cheers and on a small ceremony in August, wanting to be married before the baby arrived. Maya glowed throughout her pregnancy, her belly growing round while Lucas attended every appointment, holding her hand through morning sickness and midnight cravings. Brandon tried to reach out once more through a mutual friend, but Maya simply showed off her engagement ring and growing belly with quiet pride. That chapter of her life was closed forever. On a perfect August afternoon, with the Seattle skyline as their backdrop, Maya walked down a petal-strewn aisle in a flowing ivory dress that accommodated her 7-month pregnancy. Lucas waited at the altar in a charcoal suit, tears already streaming down his face when he saw her. "You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen," he whispered as she reached him. They exchanged vows they'd written themselves, promises of partnership, support, and endless love. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Lucas kissed her tenderly, his hand resting protectively on her belly where their daughter kicked in response. "She approves," Maya laughed against his lips. Their daughter, Emma Rose Grant, arrived on a crisp October morning, perfect and healthy with her father's eyes and her mother's smile. Lucas cut the umbilical cord with shaking hands, then held his daughter for the first time with such awe on his face that Maya fell in love with him all over again. 1 year later, Sweet Escape Bakery had expanded to 2 locations. Maya balanced motherhood and entrepreneurship with Lucas's unwavering support. Emma's first birthday party was held in the original bakery, surrounded by friends and family. As Maya watched Lucas lift their daughter into his arms, both of them laughing as Emma smashed cake into his face, she thought back to that New Year's Eve. To that accidental text that had changed everything. Sophie appeared beside her, holding baby Emma's birthday crown. "Still can't believe it all started with a wrong number. Best mistake I ever made," Maya said, watching her husband wipe frosting from their daughter's hair with infinite patience. Lucas caught her eye across the room and mouthed, "I love you," and Maya's heart felt so full it might burst. From revenge photo to accidental text, from first coffee to first kiss, from proposal to pregnancy to this perfect, chaotic, beautiful life, every moment had led them here. And she wouldn't change a single second. Applause, wolf whistles and happy shouts filling the apartment. "I love you," he whispered against her lips, his forehead pressed to hers. "So much." "I love you too," she whispered back, knowing that tomorrow morning, she'd give him an even bigger surprise. "More than you know." The celebration continued around them, champagne being poured, toasts being made, Sophie hugging them both with tears streaming down her face. But Maya and Lucas stayed in their own bubble, holding each other like they'd never let go. The morning sun filtered through Lucas's bedroom curtains, painting everything in shades of gold. Maya woke wrapped in his arms, the engagement ring on her finger catching the light and sending tiny rainbows dancing across the ceiling. She watched them for a moment, gathering her courage for what came next. Lucas stirred beside her, his arms tightening around her waist. "Good morning, fiancé," he murmured against her hair, and she could hear the smile in his voice. "Good morning, fiancé," she replied, turning in his arms to face him. His hair was adorably mussed, his eyes soft with sleep and love. "Last night was perfect," he said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Seeing you with that ring on your finger. I never want this feeling to end." "About that?" Maya's heart hammered. "I need to show you something. But first, I'm making us breakfast." She slipped out of bed before he could protest, pulling on one of his t-shirts that fell to mid-thigh. In the kitchen, she worked quickly, pulling out ingredients she'd hidden in his fridge days ago. Fresh berries, cream cheese, croissants from her bakery. But the centerpiece was special, a small white box she'd decorated at Sweet Escape yesterday, tied with a pale blue ribbon. 20 minutes later, Lucas appeared in basketball shorts and nothing else, drawn by the smell of coffee and fresh pastries. "This looks amazing," he said, wrapping his arms around her from behind and kissing her neck. "What's the occasion?" "Sit," Maya commanded gently, her stomach fluttering with nerves. She placed the box in front of him, her hands trembling slightly. Lucas looked at her quizzically, then at the box. "Maya, you didn't have to get me anything." The yes was gift enough. "Just open it," she said softly, biting her lip. Lucas untied the ribbon and lifted the lid. Inside, nestled in tissue paper, was a tiny pair of baby booties she'd found at a boutique, soft yellow with little ducks embroidered on them. Next to them was the positive pregnancy test, and a small card in her handwriting that read, "Plot twist, you're going to be a dad. Due October 15th. The silence stretched for what felt like an eternity. Lucas stared at the contents, his expression unreadable. Maya's heart sank. "Lucas," she whispered. "Say something. Please." He looked up at her, and she saw tears streaming down his face. Are you serious?" His voice cracked. "We're having a baby?" "Yes," she nodded, her own tears starting. "I know it's fast, and we didn't plan this, and if you're not ready." She didn't get to finish. Lucas stood so abruptly his chair scraped backward, and then he was lifting her into his arms, spinning her around the kitchen while laughing and crying at the same time. "Are you kidding? This is incredible. This is... Maya, we're having a baby." He set her down carefully, immediately placing both hands on her stomach with such reverence it made her heart overflow. "There's really a baby in there?" "Our baby?" "Our baby," she confirmed, covering his hands with hers. Lucas dropped to his knees, pressing his forehead against her stomach. "Hi," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "Hi, little one. I'm your dad. I'm going to love you so much. I'm going to protect you and teach you and be the best father I can be." Maya ran her fingers through his hair, tears flowing freely now. "You're not upset about the timing?" He looked up at her, his face radiant despite the tears. "Upset? Maya, you just gave me everything. A wife, a family, a future I never dared to dream about. How could I be anything but grateful?" He stood, cupping her face in his hands. "I love you. And I love this baby already. We're going to figure this out together, all of it. The wedding, the bakery, preparing for the baby. Together." "Together," she agreed, kissing him softly. They spent the morning on the couch, Lucas's hand constantly returning to her stomach as if making sure it was real. They talked about everything, baby names, nursery colors, whether to find out the gender or be surprised. Lucas was already planning, talking about converting his spare room, researching the best cribs and car seats. "October," he kept saying wonderingly. "Our baby will be here in October. Are you scared?" Maya asked, curled against his chest. "Terrified," he admitted. "But also excited. My dad used to say the best things in life are the ones that scare you most." 6 months passed in a beautiful blur. They decided.